All right, the electronics tech is a pretty crucial crew job for a lot of builds, especially the ones that I create, which are extremely demanding on electronics. And with the current ship combat meta, having a large electronics pool is very important. Electronic sets can be acquired through certain contacts, but you can also get them at any luxury pop, high tech industry, and orbital station that has certain characteristics met. Most of these three will meet the criteria for recruiting E-techs. They primarily give you electronics, as their name implies, but they'll also give you some ship ops and a teeny bit of gunnery. That's not as important. Let's go through the talents. You have Hotwire, which is a saving electronics tech or test in deep space and other places. This may be the third most important skill save, in my opinion. So it's pretty good to have two or three of these. These become very important if you are in a radiation storm. There are situations where you really don't want to fail an electronics test. It's going to be in a radiation storm. More on that later. Alert Scanner is very strong. Allows you, anytime you enter the orbit of a system, every one of your E-techs with this talent will have a 10 plus their electronic skill chance to learn a rumor. If they don't learn that rumor, it won't put it on cooldown. It'll just, that's all it gets for that try. So if you have three people, it'll try all three talents. If none of them trigger, none of them are on cooldown. Next time you go into orbit of a planet, same thing. Chasing rumors is not generally super important early game, but it can be for certain play styles and for certain achievements. And some people really do prioritize rumors more than I do, and this becomes a higher priority. Signature Jammer is really strong. I generally have one of these ASAP in the game. It will make it so that when you end a ship encounter in any unfavorable way, this is in a draw, but actually it applies to several things. It will reduce the possible reputation damage by up to electronics skill. Now, a level 1 E-Tech, a rank 1 E-Tech will have 5 electronics. So really, this can drop just about any reputation loss from an encounter down to 1. It will not reduce it below 1. In fact, it shouldn't even fire if it encounters a roll of 1 on the reputation loss. This talent shouldn't even trigger. Um, this is pretty important for maintaining reputation with factions that you don't want to constantly surrender to, perhaps, but you do want to eventually be friends with. So this can slow down that reputation loss at the beginning of the game, keep those from spiraling out of control. Storm shielding is extremely important for dealing with radiation storms, which can affect an entire quadrant. And if you're stuck flying through that, you'll face many radiation checks. And if you fail a radiation check, you take immense damage. And it's really bad. If you do not have a talent that fits in the storm category, you can pass the skill check for a radiation check, but you will still take a little damage. So you need to have this talent or something like it in order to not continuously be taking damage through radiation storms. I tend to fly a little bit of slower ships, so I like to have 6, maybe even 7 of these talents by end game. Early on, you don't need these because the game will delay starting you with the radiation storms, so you don't necessarily need this for the first 3 years or so. And even then, afterward, you can sometimes look around and go, I don't need to even go through that quadrant, I'm going to ignore it. Ion storms are a little different. They're only in individual systems. So when you enter or exit an orbital station, that's where you're going to be hit by an ion storm. This talent mitigates the damage from ion storms. It does not prevent it. So you're still taking some damage, but it's not as bad as it is if you don't have the talent. Using wires is useful for accessing the black market if you're doing that early game. Removing a risk card can keep your stuff from getting confiscated. It can also help you not deal with faction. There are some bad things that can happen in the black market, and if there's only one of them in the hand, using buzzing wires is a good way to get access to the black market, especially early game. Wide Sweep at rank 5. This is a weaker spying talent. It'll let you reroll a risk card. Early on, this is helpful if you're doing a lot of spying, or any spying really. But later on, you will probably replace this talent, and respecking to get something else will make sense. Static Talks, this is the rumor analog to this earlier talent. If you get a positive result of any kind, you learn a rumor. That can be good. It has a 9-week cooldown, which is a little rough, but matches the alert scanner. This is a secondary way to get rumors early or mid game. Weakened system applies to salvaging at orbitals. It'll increase your credit and intel rewards by 10% plus the electronic skill. It's not usually going to be a ton, 10 to 20% generally. But that adds up as orbitals do give a lot of credit rewards and some intel. So this can be pretty strong if you're doing some salvaging at orbitals. Maybe one of these would make sense. ECM Surge is specific to small craft. I'm not going to go into that as small craft haven't been released for foes, and this doesn't make full sense to go into these talents. Vigilant Scanners at rank 8 is a very important talent for a couple of reasons. One, it's not evasive maneuvers, or rather, it's not a pilot's talent, and so it has the same defense bonus of 25% as evasive maneuvers. Evasive maneuvers is a heavily used talent. I use it a ton. Vigilant Scanners is good. It also increases accuracy, which can help you if you're not quite hitting your foe. And it lasts for 2 turns, unlike the 3 from evasive maneuvers. Now, the way the turns display work in this game, you basically get 3 turns out of Vigilant Scanners and 4 out of evasive maneuvers. I actually stack this talent once I get it. I get several of these, and I tend to pop them when I need a few turns, but I'm pretty sure I'm going to reach the end of the battle soon. I don't prioritize this early battle because I want my defense buffs to stack, and this has 1 fewer turn to stack with. But it's good to have some Vigilant Scanners so that I don't run out of evasive maneuvers, avoiding some end of battle random fire from the foe that's slowly dying. But I don't want them getting any lucky shots, so I'll pop the Vigilant Scanners. It's not as high of a priority for me as evasive maneuvers. So this keeps me from exhausting my evasive maneuvers pile. Listening Post, a 13-week cooldown. This is one of the best talents in the game. When you land in an urban zone, you have a 10% plus electronic skill, again, 10 to 20%. Chance of learning about a new contact by snooping on local transmissions. This works just like Alert Scanner in that if it doesn't fire, it doesn't go on cooldown. So if you have 3 E-Techs with Listening Post, you're passively going to be gaining talents or contacts like crazy. And this is very, very nice. It costs nothing, unlike introductions, but unlike introductions, you don't get any starting rep with them. Still, getting contacts mid-game here can vastly increase your odds of surviving to late game. Contacts make or break Star Traders, and Listening Post is a great way to get them. Hunt and Sneak, again, this is a small craft talent. I'm not going to go into this for the same reason. Boosted Shields at rank 11 is actually pretty interesting. It gives you a 10% shield boost, which is all right. It doesn't add to your defense like Vigilant Scanners, so you're going to get hit if you were getting hit before. But the plus 50 radiation, plus 50 void resist for 3 turns is pretty interesting because void and radiation resist are not like shield and armor. They actually subtract a flat amount, and it's not even rolled. If something were to do 30 radiation damage and you had 50 radiation resist, that radiation damage would go to 0. Same with void. If they get dealt 55 radiation damage, they'd instead deal 5. It just subtracts 50 off of whatever it is and not allowing negative numbers as the result. So this can basically block early game, although if you're rank 11, you're probably not early game. This can just completely block the void and radiation damage from a lot of weapons and severely reduce it on the more powerful ones. So boosted shields, if you were getting nailed by a lot of radiation weaponry, like maybe a Xeno at range 5 that you can't boost your defense high enough to avoid, this might be a good early talent to reduce the damage to your crew and components in particular, so that you can survive and dish some damage back. I haven't taken that approach much, as that's more of a mitigation strategy, which is not the top in the meta, but I could see it coming to be someday. Clink of Credits. Now, this is the reason why I didn't say Wide Sweep was the best card earlier. When spying the orbit of the system, replace a risk card with a credit skim or score reward card. I believe skim and score are 2 different degrees of how much money you'll be getting. But this replaces an existing card with money. You'll just get money in exchange for a little bit of time. I guess there's some experience involved sometimes, but and these cards can also trigger static talks if you have them. So really, this is a better card than Wide Sweep most of the time, almost all of the time. If you having both of these in large numbers doesn't make sense because this will come back up off of cooldown before you're able to go through all your stack of Clink of Credits, unless you don't need the Wide Sweeps. So really, this is a good replacement for Wide Sweep later on. Knock from the Void sounds like it'll be very interesting once enemies have small craft, but as they do not currently, I'm not going to go into it.